I guess go build stuff first and foremost. Whether it's a transition or you're just first getting into cloud and figuring out, just log in and figure out how to build some stuff.
Thank you, Young, for your time today. Really appreciate it. Can you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, it's gonna be weird for me too. It's just two youngs going at each other. But
Exactly.
I guess for the audience, my name is Young, also Young, I guess, and I'm currently working as a solutions architect at AWS. I've been on the role for, let's see, today is the 25th, so like a week away from 2 years. Uh, Before that, I was an electrical engineer, so a bit of a career transition in between. So I guess, I mean, if you have any questions regards to that, I can always answer. But that's about me. I live in Austin. I actually just moved here um, about 3 weeks ago, so I'm just getting used to it. Believe it or not, it is pretty cold today.
Oh,
And for the past few days, that's why I'm wearing a hat. I was actually gonna do it without the hat, and it's like below freezing here. Believe it or not, I think I brought my Seattle weather with me. I was actually originally from Seattle, so happy to
yeah,
be here. And yeah,
yeah. Yeah, like I never thought Austin would be cold, so that's a surprise there. So yeah, Young, you so you said that you've been with Amazon for almost 2 years now. Do you still remember the day that you got the offer letter? And if yes, like what was your first reaction?
um, I think it was, yeah, 2 years ago, March. Well, actually, you got the letter way before, so like end of January, somewhere mid February. Of course, I was happy because I had an employment gap, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just like, I need to get a job. I need to make some money. I was traveling and doing all sorts of stuff that was straining my bank account. So of course, I'm just like, I'm moving back with my parents. I mean, gracious for them to let me back in. Originally, I had like 2 years of money saved up from like quitting my job. I was like, hey, I could still live out there, but my parents took me back in. So I was like, why not travel? And I was
Exactly.
starting to drain my money. So, when
Yeah.
I got the letter, I was really happy.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah, I can totally relate to you because I just graduated off of, in my MBA, and then I was like I basically I didn't have anywhere to go. And then I got the letter. I was like basically jumping all over the place with my, wife and my son. So I totally get it when you say like, you had some unemployment gap. So it makes total sense. Yeah, so talking about, getting the offer and then all that stuff, tell me about your process of getting into Amazon. Like, did you apply, or did someone reach out to you? And also, did you have a referral or not? And also, if you can tell me a little bit about your interview process, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, like I alluded to earlier, I was a career changer. So I think that just adds another layer of complexity when it comes to finding the right role. What do you actually, I mean, everybody wants to work in tech. That's sort of where the money is, but I had an engineering background. I could code a little bit. I was starting to do some data science stuff, machine learning. Those were sort of my pet project slash my interest, so to speak.
Yeah.
So when I was first doing my search, I mean, Amazon wasn't really even in the radar. It's just like,
Yeah.
hone my skill, build up my portfolio. We're talking GitHub repos of codes and different projects that I was doing, kind of curating it and then seeing what opportunities out there and try to fit myself. And as far as Amazon came at the very end of my search,
Okay.
I have the number somewhere, but I applied to something like 200 plus jobs. And as
Yep.
somebody who's doing sort of like data analysis sort of thing, you kind of look at the numbers. I mean, the numbers are terrible. Actually, I actually only got to two in-person interview, one of which ended up being Amazon. But to answer your question, it just ended up being my friend who was like, "Hey," he curiously enough is also a career changer from recruiting,
Okay.
and he was making this transition. Yeah, in fact, he had already made the transition into
Mm.
into my now old team since I've transitioned. But that old team was recruiting or not recruiting, hiring, and he's like, "Hey, I think your skills fit here. Just study a bunch of stuff, plug in the gaps,
Yeah.
try stuff on AWS, and then get yourself ready." So I think him being my point of contact
Okay.
and sort of the networking and sourcing, if you will, was probably more effective than any other applications that I put in.
Gotcha. And can you tell me a little bit about the interview process as well? Like, did you have like a coding tests or technical assessment, as you call it? And also, like, were you the interview process? Was it like behavioral based, or was it anything special that you kind of remember?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty typical Amazon or any other tech recruiting process where you get one or two phone calls, or they call it phone screen, where
Yep.
you do like a one-on-one. It could be behavioral, it could be, technical. Because of the type of my role or type of the role that I was applying for requires IT skills. So
Hmm.
I actually had two phone interviews. One of them was technical, just asking a bunch of, IT related questions, some, programming questions, nothing too deep, like you would expect from an SDE perspective. And another one was around behavioral. And then once you get to the on-site, I think I was like one of the last people to actually have an on-site,
Okay.
because nowadays
Yeah.
I think you do virtual style, but
Exactly.
I had
Yeah.
to actually go into the office and
Um.
it was, I think, 5 rounds, more than five people, because some of them
Oh
had like
wow.
two people in the room,
Gotcha.
and they probably go in the back room at a certain point and discuss my candidacy, but that was the experience. And
Yeah.
as far as the on-site, there were some, I don't know what the numbers were, but there were some technical
Assessment.
rounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, sorry, I know I'm being a little nitpicky, or but like, do you mind maybe sharing a little bit more on like the actual what is it, the technical assessment? Was it like, did you have to actually code, or were you just like showing someone on the like whiteboard or something? Like what did that look like,
Yeah.
and what was the, I guess, expectation of that round?
Yeah. So, you know, typically speaking, in a tech interview, you would think about, lead code, so like whiteboarding a coding questions and things
Yep.
like that. Solution architecture is a little bit different because we're dealing with, how do you design? I guess I should probably explain what the role is, to kind of help you explain. As a solution architect, you're working with in the specific case of AWS, you're working with the cloud infrastructure or the cloud services that you're provided and creating what we call solution.
Hmm.
So hence the name solution architect. And I can explain that in a little bit
Yeah.
as we go on,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
as it pertains to the technical part of the interview, we're talking about how do you design, an application, not from
Gotcha.
not
Okay.
from a development perspective, but
Yep.
how do you design so that things work without interruption, things
Gotcha.
work, you know, things like that. How is it
Yeah.
secured and those sorts of questions,
So sort of like a system design interview.
right?
Right. Okay.
And,
Gotcha.
and you kind of apply that to cloud infrastructure or IT
Of
infrastructure
course. Of course.
for a
Yeah.
non-cloud provider.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Actually, speaking of which, my next question was, tell me about what you do as a solution architect at Amazon Web Services.
Um, yeah, I mean, solutions architect is wildly defined depending on who you ask, just
Hmm.
because of the nature of the IT world and how
Yep.
it's shifting to cloud. But I guess, and I use this example for everyone who's not as familiar in the area. In fact, I even use it to explain to my girlfriend is think of like a bucket of Legos, just different pieces,
Yep.
and you as an individual is trying to build a house. Me as an architect would advise you to put certain pieces in order to build
Gotcha.
a frame, a door, or windows,
Yeah.
or the roofs, right? So if you kind of translate that into what we do in the cloud, like I mentioned before, as an AWS provide certain services that's built on top of our cloud infrastructure. And my job as a solutions architect is to help you, customer, um, help design the best way to build their solution on
Mhm.
AWS. And the thing that separates me from other typical SAs is something I forgot to mention in the very beginning, is that I work for our partner organization.
Mhm.
So in a typical engagement, you're talking about customer who wants to build on AWS, and obviously there's a solutions architect that help them, build their solution out, help them pick the best services that optimizes whatever they want to do. So, is it a serverless compute versus, regular EC2 compute, that those sorts of things, help them make a decision that way. We also have partners that build on AWS that also then turn around and sell the product. It could be a SaaS product that they build on the AWS that they sell to their customers. So we have this, I would call symbiotic relationship where
Mm.
obviously we help them co-sell and kind of help
Yeah.
them with market activities and anything that comes with that in terms of technical needs that they have. That's where I am looking to help.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, and when you say like partner or customers, do you mean like customers outside of Amazon?
Amazon is one of our customers, but obviously AWS is public for public consumption. So whoever wants to build an AWS can create an account, log into the console and then start, figuring stuff out, or
Gotcha.
in a programmatic way, whether that's CLI, SDK, those sorts of ways.
Might be a dumb question, but do
There's no such thing as dumb questions. Far away.
do solutions architect needs a technical background? Technical background meaning like a CS degree, for example.
Not necessarily. It would help because a lot of it is IT knowledge that you need to know. Obviously, translating that into how it works in cloud might be a little bit different, but you need to have background information on, how networking works, what are the different layers of networking, for example, or uh, how database works, what's a SQL database versus
Yeah.
NoSQL database. Recent development around, cloud native information or things like what is serverless versus, not serverless.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I think you don't necessarily have to have an engineering degree or a technical degree. Um, I've seen a lot, like I said, my buddy came from recruiting. Obviously, it took him a little longer to get converted because he had to train himself
Yeah.
on technical knowledge. It also helped that he was internal, so there were resources for him
Gotcha.
to get help.
That makes sense. Yeah, that was my next question. Like, what was the wildest transition in coming into solution architect? I guess recruiting is like 180
I mean,
degrees
I've,
difference.
I've seen other cases of just people, teachers becoming,
Oh wow. Oh wow. That's yeah.
solutions architect. But I will say one like overarching theme is that you are eager to learn and
Yeah,
you apply that skill. And I think this really translates well to any kind of
of course.
working environment. So, just gotta be able to do your work and have the grit. So
Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned something about, transitioning or a, role changer when you first joined Amazon. Was there any learning curve? And I'm assuming yes. And if yes, what were some of the resources that you were given to kind of overcome those?
um yeah, that's a very loaded question. Let me
Sorry.
try to figure out the best way to no, no, it's okay. Yes, the answer is yes. I think first joining Amazon, I mean, the technical part of it, of course, you have to learn. You have to ask people how things work. You have to consult your outside resources. You know, there's a lot of classes out there, Udemy, Coursera, you name
Yep.
it, just to pick up the pick up the technology or the concepts. But I think the biggest part of learning tech in any setting, cloud or SD or systems engineering, is just getting your hands dirty. So in my case, it's just building stuff on AWS. There's a lot of workshops out there that give you certain patterns around how to build, let's say, I don't know, ticketing system, for example. How do
Yeah.
you deploy that on AWS? And there's, reference architectures out there that helps you pick the right services. And, whether you click a bunch of buttons on the console, I would suggest people, do it programmatically. So code it into your what we call infrastructure as code. Essentially, you're codifying what you're deploying on AWS or on a cloud infrastructure. Helps you, pick up your programming skills at the same time and allow you to see how things work, how each services work. So you get to really dive deep into, what can I do versus what can't I do? What are the limits? Where are the bottleneck? What are the blockers in this certain design? So, because when you think about it, like I said in the beginning, you have to help your customers choose the right services to be successful. And if you don't have the knowledge because you don't know what the limits are for a certain design, then you're not putting your customers in the path to success. So technical wise, I think I did a lot of like playing around, breaking stuff, essentially. I think anything I build these days will, and I'm pretty sure I'm a lot better than I was a year or 2 years ago.
Of course.
But I deploy something and still breaks. So it's an ongoing experience. It's an ongoing learning experience as well. Because AWS comes out with so many things, I can't even keep track of it sometimes.
Of course, yeah.
So that was the most steepest experience, I think, from technical perspective. And from non-technical perspective, it was probably just not having the imposter syndrome. There's a reason people get into tech companies, and I wasn't any part of an exception. So it's just getting out of that. I was fortunate to get out of that pretty quickly, but I do see that happening to a lot of people who just start. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what you like the most and what you like maybe the least about your role as a solutions architect.
What I like about the most, I mean, I'm always learning, and I don't think I'll ever stop learning. I approach it from the perspective of, tech is always evolving. There's new things coming out. New services are coming out. New features in the service is coming out, and that also opens the door for ways to better design things, or that kind of leads to helping out the customer. So it just keeps me on that path to learning more and more. So I can never let the gas off foot or foot off the gas, so to speak. I think that's what I like about the most. That could be what I also like about the least, because you can get in a rabbit hole and try to balance your life and your work-life balance.
Yeah.
And that's become like my biggest hurdle or I don't want to say blocker because it doesn't really block me from challenge is it's all these things I want to do. How do I manage that?
For sure.
And the fact that I have to kind of do it, Amazon provides so many opportunities that it's almost a detriment from time to time.
Yeah. My last question already, which is advice for those who want to join Amazon as a solutions architect.
I guess go build stuff first and foremost. Find your interest. It's actually pretty hard to find your interest because I think those things always change.
Yeah.
But if you want to, whether it's a transition or you're just first getting into cloud and figuring out what this cloud thing is, just log in and figure out how to build some stuff. See how to start an EC2 instance for a certain maybe you have a project in mind. It could be, I don't know, build a to-do dashboard or something like that. There's a way to do it locally, but a way of development. But you can also, take that and deploy it on a Lambda, for example, or
Yeah.
whatever design you come up with. So do those things, get your feet wet, and I guess also meet people. I think
Yeah.
a lot of these things are like very transferable to other jobs as well. But
Yeah.
meet people, go out there, talk to people, see how things are
Yeah.
going. And I think that would be the approach. Other than that, if you kind of want to apply this into your current job, because I think that's also a good way to transition into a solutions architect, is to see if your company is making a move to cloud. I mean, it doesn't have to be AWS, obviously. It's whatever your company ends up going with. And just pick up those skills that essentially you're going to learn on the job. I mean, those are pretty
Yeah.
valuable as well. So if your company's making a transition to cloud, make sure you get your hands on those projects, and you will learn a whole lot. You will meet those people on the other side, so to speak, the people that are working at those cloud providers, and you will learn a lot. Form relationships, and that could be your gateway to getting a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, thank you, Young. Those are all the questions I had for today. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. It was my pleasure, and hopefully a lot of people could take away some stuff from you.
Of course. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Young.